It looks like my work in this gearbox is not finished because I have spotted some problems. The first one and the most obvious one is a leak, an oil leak from this the end part. This has a seal, rubber seal here that well, this may have shifted during my works, so now this is leaking, as you can see. So I'll have to remove the propeller shaft, remove the seal and put in a new seal. Another thing is, and well, it's worse, is that I have another leak here. You see the oil puddle there, and it's from the extension housing. See, it's leaking from here, from the joining surface between the middle of the gearbox and the shift lever, the extension housing. So I'll have to unbolt these bolts around the extension housing, clean this up, and put in a new gasket. The thing is that I made this gasket using only silicone, and it's not a good practice. I thought that since silicone, liquid silicone is used in some engines without any gasket, I figured that this would make the gearbox dry in this area. It would hold the oil in place, but no, you have to put a paper gasket. You see the difference there in the forward part of the gearbox. It's all dry because I put the paper gasket there. In this area I only used silicone, so this went bad. I'll have to remove the bolts, remove the extension housing, and put in the gasket. Okay, we will have to remove 2 bolts here, 2 bolts on the other side. Also, this part here comes off. Remove these 2 bolts, and then there will be 2 more bolts after we remove this plastic cover. So the 2 bolts are one here and one on the opposite end of this center console. Now to remove the center console, just press against the boot of the gear lever and try to press it in so that the console can come out like so. Now we have to remove the 4 bolts. These are 10mm bolts to gain access to the lower part of the lever. Now there will be 4 more bolts holding the retainer, shift retainer, into the extension housing. Remove those to pull the extension housing up. You may be wondering why I didn't remove the shift knob. Well, there is no need for this since we won't be accessing the inner part of the shift lever. You may be wondering why I have not removed the shift knob. Well, there's no need for that because we will be removing this as a whole, so no problem. Just remove the 4 bolts under there and you can continue with the process. Okay, so out comes the shift lever, and be careful to remove the gasket without breaking it. There will be a paper gasket. Here it is. So like always, the first step to remove the propeller shaft is to mark the position in which it's in. Get some dye. Just smear this with the ink. You do not need to be precise about this. just to know which place in the differential flange matches the transmission. Since this is a square, only 4 sides are available. Just match up this mark with the mark on the differential flange when reassembling this. A tip I learned the hard way is to the larger tool that you're using, always work this way, never pull towards you, because this will skip and will hit you in the face. no joke about it, this happens. You also have to put the car in neutral and release the handbrake. That's also good. So the rest is just remove it with your hands. Now remove the 2 bolts that hold the middle bearing into its place to release the propeller shaft. Be careful when handling these bolts, because you do not want to strip the nuts that are in the car's shell, because you will be in a lot of trouble. Be very gentle with these bolts. Don't forget to place an oil pan directly under the place where the propeller shaft meets the gearbox, because when we pull this out, when we pull the propeller shaft out, some oil will leak to the floor. So be sure that does not fall on the floor, or else you will be scrubbing it. I'm now removing the second bolt from the middle bearing. Jack up the transmission just to make it horizontal, or at least release the weight on the supports. Release the speedometer cable and loosen the 4 bolts of the gearbox mounting. Be very careful with these bolts, because these are among the most bothersome bolts when they strip the threads, because this thread is in the car shell, and being in the car shell, it can be very difficult to put in a new bolt on the other side. It would involve welders and angle grinders, and I'm not. That's not a pleasant sight. Now loosen the two middle bolts in order to remove this the mount, the bottom mount, but keeping the rubber mount in the gearbox, because this is the part that holds the gearbox into the shell, car's shell. But this will we can only remove this in order to have access to the extension housing bolts. Okay, now we have access to the bolts of the extension housing, which is this part here. Let's remove all the bolts just to loosen this up, clean the remainders of the old gasket, and place in a new paper gasket which I have made from the remainders of the original gasket. I will also show you how to do your own gaskets. It's quite easy. So let's start loosening the 6 bolts. We have 2 here, 2 on the middle, and 2 on the top. By the way, the music that's playing, it's from the Turbos and Temples soundtrack from Mighty Car Mods. A shout out to you guys, you do awesome videos. I crack myself up with your videos, it's great. And Well, I'm not taking any claims for the soundtrack. The soundtrack is available on iTunes, and the author is Moog, uh, one of the guys from Mighty Car Mods, a vegetarian. From where I know, the guy's a vegetarian, and his sense of humor is just awesome. Like all the stuff from Mighty Car Mods, their sense of humor is something out of this world. You guys gotta see. If you like cars and if you like funny stuff, you should watch Mighty Car Mods. You have they made a car. They called it the TRD Laser, and it's a Ford Laser that they modified, and then they put a very big TRD sticker on it. It's amazing. You guys should definitely check this out. If you check their channel out, if you like my videos of repairs and cars and all this stuff, you should definitely see Mighty Car Mods. Well, back to the job. Keep removing the 6 volts until this entire part of the gearbox comes loose. For the upper volts, use an extension and an articulate like I'm using, so that you can reach those inaccessible volts up there. Okay, so I have placed this bolt here to hold this in place. Now out comes the bolt. And now we have to maneuver this to loosen the extension housing. This is because there is a hook inside the extension housing that goes from the shift lever to the forks in the middle part of the gearbox, and this is being held in place. We have to maneuver this to loosen the extension housing. You can see the remainders of the old of the gasket that I made with silicone. This did not hold in place, so this is what I'll be replacing with a paper gasket. Okay, since I'll be replacing this to solve the leak from this area, use an oil seal puller, put it inside on the inner grommet of the oil seal, and pull it out. Be careful not to scrape the inner part of the place where the seal is held in place. Just make sure that your puller is only making contact with the seal. Work your way around the seal. So out comes the old seal, and I'll be putting in the new one. Clean the area to remove any debris that may be in the contact surface, like so. Before installing the new seal, first clean it up very well, the contact surface. Then put some transmission oil on the surface of the new seal. So there it is, the new seal. I used a 32mm socket bit, and it seems to be holding in place, so this part is fixed. Now onto the gasket. Okay, clean up all the remains of the old gasket. Now it's time for the new paper gasket. Well, making gaskets is very easy. Just get your old gasket, get some gasket paper. You can find this at your local parts shop, and get a razor blade, and just, well, lay the old gasket like a stencil on top of the paper, and then gently and slowly with a blade go around the place and well, just clone your existing gasket. If this happens, you can trim excess paper around the holes. This is normal, you will have to do this. You have to be concerned not only with fitting in the fork, but also making sure that the output shaft does not scrape on the new seal, or else it will ruin it. The ideal situation is to have a neutral position of all the three forks before closing up this gearbox. I must say that if this does not stop the leaks, well, I don't know what will. Only welding. It's always a good idea to check the engagement of the gears before putting the propeller shaft back in place. So that's what I'm doing now. We have fourth and third working. This is first. No, this is first. Now, as for the reassembly, it is the just a reverse of the disassembly process. We will start by reinserting these two bolts, then retightening all of the four bolts in the mount. Simply I have a companion here. Okay, this one is not noxious. It's not a blood-sucking insect. The main objective here is not to strip the threads. I can't stress this enough because I've had well, it was my fault with another car, and it was not pretty. So just insert everything by hand without tightening. See, hand tighten all the bolts. To avoid stripping the threads, because this is a mess. This is really dangerous. It's one of those things that if you strip the thread, you're done. I also tighten this very lightly. Just, well, I tighten this by hand, avoiding to use too much force, because tighten the bolts one at a time. I'm always okay. This is telling me to insert the speedometer cable into place, like so. Okay, so no more annoyances. Tighten these bolts very lightly, one at a time. If you feel that you're using too much force, stop and untighten and adjust the bolt, because I can't stress this enough. You will need angle grinder. You will notice if one of the bolts becomes loose. The manual has got the torque specs, but I'm not regarding the torque specs because those specs were made for a car rolling out of the factory. This chassis has 25 years, and if I follow the torque specs on these nuts, it's almost certain that they will strip. So just hand tighten them until you feel it's reasonable, and that's it. Don't worry, you'll start to feel noise and some warning signs before the transmission falls. I could also use the ratchet, but I'd rather do these bolts by hand, slowly. Now I'm inserting the propeller shaft back in place. Be careful not to scrape the shaft on the outer border of the gearbox, because it may damage the seal. Slice the shaft. And once they are aligned, be sure to set the position of the bearing correctly. Push the shaft into place, and then insert one of the bolts to hold this in place. Do not tighten these yet, these bolts, because we have to know if the propeller shaft matches the differential flange. This is just to hold the propeller shaft and prevent us from becoming tired holding the propeller shaft. It's not heavy, but it's not light also. So what I mean is this. We have to see before tightening the bolts. Before tightening the two bolts on the middle, be sure that the differential and the shaft can mate. Match the marking on the propeller shaft, blue marking, with the blue marking on the differential, and use one of the bolts to hold this in place. So there it is. This is just a preliminary tightening because these bolts have to be torqued to spec. These bolts are 25 foot-pounds, so get your torque wrench and set it for that value. Okay, all four are done. The trick here is to apply the force to the spanner, not to the torque wrench when you're doing this. Only you put the torque wrench here and then you apply the force here. The torque wrench will click when the time comes. Don't worry. It's the same as applying the force on the torque wrench, but the difference is that if anything comes flying, it's much harder to hold the torque wrench in your hand than the spanner, and most likely if anything comes flying it will land on your forehead or your eyes or something like that. That's why I'm using my glasses for this. Now it's just a matter of putting back the interior trimmings. Don't forget the gasket, and then insert the shift lever. Be sure to match the white plastic thing into the hole. With the 4 bolts inserted on the underside, reinsert the smaller 4 on the top. Reinsert the center console, pulling the boot towards the top. Reinsert the 2 bolts on the sides of the center console and tighten them. The thing with the 86 plastics, as like in many other older cars, don't over tighten them. Tighten them just to hold the panels in place. No matter if there are rattles, well, that's the car. That's a 25-year-old car. It's much better than breaking the plastic because these plastics are mostly discontinued, and those that are still on sale in Toyota cost an arm and a leg. So at least that's my opinion. Now the only thing remaining is the center console. Reinsert it in place. And reinsert the bolts on the sides. Now to wrap up, insert the plastic cover on the center console, and that's it. It's reassembled. Yeah, the first you need to have the clutch engaged. At least, if I had the clutch engaged, it will go in. So, I think that the only thing remaining is to fill up the gearbox with oil, but that it's very easy to do. Just get the tube and the funnel and insert the oil in there through the fill plug until the oil comes out. When the oil starts to come out and you cannot fill it anymore, that's perfectly fine. I'll be filling up the gearbox only tomorrow because I have to leave the... I don't think that's needed, but I'll leave it anyway. Since I do not have... This is not a real workshop, then I do not have to deliver the car to the customer. I'll leave the silicone to dry overnight, and then tomorrow I will fill up the gearbox with oil. I hope you liked this repair on the fixing leaks on the T50 gearbox of the AE86 or Hachiroko for the fans. And well, I hope to see you in
another video. As always, if you like the video, don't forget to like, push the thumbs up, to subscribe if you want to receive any more videos, and let me know what you think of my videos, what you'd like for me to do next. Maybe your concerns are similar to mine. I'm repairing this car and I'm restoring it. If you have any specific troubles, I would like to hear from you, and maybe I'll figure out that I have the same problems as you, and I'll try to fix them, and make a video for you to see. Well, until then, take care and enjoy working on your car, because fun is the most important thing. Even though sometimes it can be a pain, but in the end the reward is always there.